Good afternoon. Officially now about 12:03, which gives us a chance to have our group gather. We know that you all are continuing to join this webinar, and we appreciate you spending your lunch with us. We have an activity this fall called Lunch and Learn, and it feels like in many ways the Titan Talks are similar. We invite our alumni and friends to be part of great conversation. A special thanks to the Office of Alumni Engagement for hosting these kinds of opportunities for us to get together as the Titan community. My name is Carla Carney Hall. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, and have the pleasure of working with students every day. And I often say that it's the pleasure to work with the future every day. And when it comes to careers, that is certainly the case. It is about our students thinking about their futures and planning to go out into the world and do well and do good. And so we know that you are critical partners in that work and are so appreciative of your willingness to join into this conversation about how to make sure that we make our network work. And how important that is to do that these days. You all have been on webinars a lot over the last few years, I can imagine, but as part of our introduction today, we simply want to remind folks about the webinar format in case you're a little rusty. We are in a webinar format, which means that we will have our presenters visible and unmuted to be able to be part of the conversation, but you all as participants have no video and no microphone. But we encourage questions. We do want to hear from you and invite you to submit questions via the Q&A section of the Zoom feature. There will be time at the end for questions, so we will have a moderated Q&A at the end of our time together today. And you certainly will have access to this via video. So if you are excited today about what you hear and you want to share this with other people, a video will be available, a recording will be available. If you have a technical issue, if you are not able to hear us, see us, and be part of today, please reach out to the Office of Alumni Engagement. Their phone number is 309-556-3141. Again, Office of Alumni Engagement, 309-556-3145. So you joined today because you got excited, I hope, about the incredible work that we've been doing with our students. Illinois Wesleyan ranks number 7 in the nation and number 1 in Illinois on Zippia's 2022 list of best colleges for getting a job. And this is based on the Department of Education college scorecard data. How can we do more? How can we make this network work even better on behalf of our students and to sing from the mountaintop about the incredible Illinois Wesleyan experience that we all share? We know that alumni are critical to our success. We had a career fair just about 2 weeks ago where we had 90 employers and 350 students. And I am certain, I have not asked Warren what the percentage of the 90 were alumni, but I know it was huge because they were tagged on their name tags as proud Illinois Wesleyan alumni. And so you are critical to that success. Joining us today are Warren Kistner, our director of the Hart Career Center, and Dave Rasho, who has been an incredible partner with our students and to talk more about engagement benefits and the work with our current students. Warren is no stranger to most of you. He has been here for a long time. I think some students think he was here when the doors opened, but he is an alum of the class of '83, completed his degree in business administration and a minor in history, with a brief stint away from Illinois Wesleyan to get a master's degree and some business experience. He rejoined our team in 1995. His responsibilities include employer outreach, career counseling, graduate school preparation, alumni connection, and all of the things that a great student affairs generalist does in a college and university setting. When Warren's not working, which is really not very often, if you know Warren, you know this. He enjoys traveling, biking, reading. He has a koi pond in his backyard that is a passion, and working with things at home. He is a dedicated philanthropist. and member of Rotary International. He has provided professional leadership for professional associations, the College Career Consortium of Illinois, the Illinois Association for Employment and Education, and Midwest Association of Colleges and Employers. So he is no stranger to this topic. In fact, I think he eats, sleeps, and breathes this topic about how to help our students do incredible work. So we are fortunate to have Warren here at Illinois Wesleyan every single day, but particularly thrilled to have him join this panel today. David Rasho, many of you know Dave. He again has been with us as a career community for quite some time, 10 years, really helping us think about the connections to students. Graduated from Illinois Wesleyan in 2001 with a double major in business administration and econ. Was busy playing football, serving as the president of Sigma Chi. He is currently a partner at Access to Insight LLC, which is a company that he founded in 2012. Gotta love those 10-year anniversaries, David. His career started at a small data-driven marketing services firm where he learned the technical skills and fell in love with being a small business entrepreneur. He earned an MBA at Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management, focused on entrepreneurship. After graduating, he worked at a large marketing firm, a brief stint in investment banking, and then a large advertising agency. That generalist skills that let you know that small business and creating your own path is part of what you want to do in life. Those things led him to launch A2I along with 2 partners and 5 employees, and the company has grown to an incredible team of 45 professionals, and 20% of his workforce, 9 Illinois Wesleyan alums, help design and implement data-driven marketing strategies for large consumer packaged goods companies. So I am thrilled to have the expertise in this space today to talk about how Titans benefit Titans, particularly in those outcomes that are critical to work. So with that, I will turn this wonderful panel discussion or this dialogue between 2 amazing people to Warren to help get us started.
Thank you, Carla. Okay, hopefully you can all see that. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And as Carla shared, I've been at this for a few years, and I would imagine, without seeing the names of who's joining us today, that I know a number of you. I'm hoping there's also some new alumni and friends of the university that are joining, because what I'm going to do in the first part is share some information about how you could engage and how you could give back to your alma mater or to Illinois Wesleyan University. And I'll follow that up with reintroducing my partner, my much younger and better looking partner, for a Q&A, because I want to really be able to share how an alum has done that successfully over the years. So Carla did a nice job of introducing the 2 of us, so I'm gonna move along here. We are doing some things right, and that's wonderful. You know, Carla shared that we've enjoyed the distinction of being number 7 in the nation and number 1 in Illinois on Zippia's ranking now for several years. And I think what I want to emphasize is that this comes through the support of loyal alumni. We couldn't do what we're doing without your engagement and your support. We're a small institution, and all of you know that. So I often say that, you know, when I knock on the doors of employers, if I'm talking to human resources, sometimes I run into that roadblock of target schools where they recruit at specific institutions, often larger. And so for us to succeed there, we have to sometimes work our way through the back door and reach out to our alumni who can be our advocates in helping get Titans in the door there. So we've enjoyed a strong placement both in terms of interns and employment opportunities for our graduates, but there's room for growth. And we have added new programs over the past years. Some of you have probably followed this. A couple examples: an entrepreneurship major, a data science major that just started this year. And so we have some areas that we have to develop because they're newer programs, and we have some growing programs as well. A couple examples there: computer science and finance. Two of many, but we're looking for some additional opportunities for our graduates. So when I talk to alumni, I often present things in terms of a menu of options. And I think it's important for what I'd like you to do today is think about if any of these speak to you, if there are ways that you could help or could engage, because some may be more possible given your position, your organization than others, but I think there's something here for everybody. So I want you to kind of view it that way as I go through this. My first ask is, and probably always will be, are there internships and employment opportunities with your organization that you might be able to share with us? And this can be as simple as you sending me an email and letting me know about an opportunity that we can share with our students. And we do work with our alumni as well. So it could be an experience level position that you'd like us to pass along. But and hopefully we could develop that into more of a formal relationship where we're working together with your organization to routinely publicize these opportunities to our students. But before we get to that point, we need your wisdom and expertise because we're preparing our students to be successful when they join you. And that happens in a number of ways. For many students, we encourage them to obviously read about fields of interest, but there's no replacement for what we refer to as informational interviews, or sometimes curiosity conversations, to just make it a little less intense. But just these are the one-on-one connections with students where you would share information about your field and help them kind of breathe life into the reality of day-to-day work in that environment. Taking that a step further, the pandemic kind of threw us a curveball where some shadowing opportunities were simply not possible. We're seeing some changes now, and I hope that if your doors are open and you might be able to have a student join you for a half day, for a full day, to just kind of observe what you're doing, it really takes the informational interview on the road and allows a student to really see that environment up close. Mentoring is another form of connecting our successful alumni and students. One example of that is a program that we started 2 semesters back for women in finance. We don't have as many women choosing that career, and we certainly want to support those who are. So we found a group of successful alumni who were willing to commit to about a 4 to 6 month window of time in which they would touch base with students just once a month to discuss different issues that might help them grow professionally. So this is a model that we also employ, and I'd be happy to talk with you about. Today, this is a program that's hosted by our Alumni Engagement Office. Through the Hart Career Center, we also host a series of alumni programs throughout the year. Some of you have probably participated in these. These might be individual programs. Just recently, we had a diplomat with the State Department who joined us, obviously a virtual presentation. We've had career panels on different topics and different industries. So your expertise there certainly could help us with some of the programming that we're hosting throughout the year. And in some cases, it makes sense to take that into the classroom. So if it's specific to a certain discipline and we're able to identify a class that might be appropriate for what you would share, we're happy to make those connections. And I know that we have many faculty who welcome that opportunity to kind of take what they're teaching in the classroom and have somebody share how that would apply in a real world environment. Just a couple of photos here to illustrate what I'm talking about. On the left here is Scott Searles. Scott is one of those loyal alumni who has helped me for many years. He is with Kimberly-Clark and was down recently to conduct interviews for both intern and full-time opportunities with the company. And we just learned that one of our students was offered and accepted an internship with Kimberly-Clark and will be joining them this summer. On the right, we have another entrepreneur. David has been very successful in his career. Will Jenkins has also enjoyed success, and coincidentally, he started his career at Kimberly-Clark, but moved into the logistics field and co-founded a company called Molo Solutions. Will has been down to present to classes. He's joined us virtually for programs, and he's hired a number of Titans over the years. The gentleman on the left there, it's not every day that we can say that we have an alum who founded an airline. This is Babawande Afolabi, and took a few years for a variety of reasons, but Babawande was successful in getting Green Africa Airways flying, and he was back on campus, back in the Bloomington Normal community, and joined us for a program. We thought that it might make sense to do kind of a fireside chat without the fire and involve one of our students who is pursuing entrepreneurial activities to interview him about his experiences. So just an example of a type of program that we might try to put together if you're visiting campus and would like to engage with our students. And on the right here is a group of alums. This was pre-pandemic, but we're hoping to host these again in the spring. We did a series of career luncheons in which we took an area of focus, sometimes a cluster of majors. Here it was psychology and sociology, and students actually signed up to join one of the alums based on the work they were doing. So each alum had probably 6 or 7 students that they had lunch with, and really wonderful conversations and a chance to get a little bit more in depth than might be the case with a panel. So again, just some examples of how our alums have given back. Okay, friends, I'm going to continue down that menu there. As Carla mentioned, we hosted our fall career fair on October 3rd and had 90 organizations joining us. We had actually over 30 alums, and when they've got that alumni badge on, I think it really makes it a little less anxious for students to walk up and talk to a representative where they share something in common. So if you're able to join us for one of our upcoming fairs, that would be incredibly helpful. And we have a couple of scenarios here. One is where human resources is really putting this together and driving registration. And we also have alums who have just taken it upon themselves to come down and represent their companies. So we would love to have you. It's a wonderful opportunity for students to make early contact that hopefully leads to follow-up interviews and communication with organizations. Taking that a step further, we do host on-campus interviewing throughout the year. So if there's an opportunity for you to visit campus and conduct some screening interviews with students to get the ball rolling, that often helps us in terms of getting our students in front of the appropriate individuals, as opposed to just relying on online application processes. If a visit is not possible, and certainly understand busy schedules, even working with us to put together a resume collection where, instead of just applying online, and of course we would tell our students that this is part of the process, but if we could send some resumes to you directly, just so that they got in the hands of somebody who could ensure that they got a look and some follow-up, that's something where we've had some success in getting students on board for internships and entry-level opportunities. And before any of this happens, our students need practice. So we have a mock or practice interview program that runs throughout the year. During the pandemic, we did virtual interviews, but what we're doing is really a blend now, because the reality is that many of the initial interviews will be virtual. So we want students to get practice in that area, but we also recognize that when somebody comes to campus and meets with them, there's that personal connection there, and there's certainly a benefit to that. Typically, these are about a half day. We kind of base that on your schedule and your availability. So those are a few things, a few ways that you can engage. The last request is to take my calls, and I don't think anybody to date has changed their number. At least I'm not aware of it. So I want to thank those of you that are already working with us, and certainly encourage some of you to think about ways that you could give back. On the left here, this was our recent fair held in the Shirk Center, and Dana Peterson, who's on the left in that photo, reached out to us and has now joined us for about 3 different career fairs and follow-up interviews with our students. And then on the right, we have 2 of our alums, Dave Malcolm and Rod Adams, who are in senior level positions with their organizations, and they have visited campus on a number of occasions for different purposes. Here they're meeting with a group of our Posse students, which is a program in which we bring in students from New Orleans who join our Titan community. And both Dave and Rod are involved with Posse at their organizations. So they have a passion for this, and we're able to join a group of students for lunch and conversation about their careers. So we use a system called Handshake, and this is our career services management system. We can certainly set up an account for an organization, but I thought that it would be much simpler today to just put my email and phone number and encourage you to reach out. Because again, as a smaller institution, we're going to do whatever we need to get the information out to our students, share that with faculty, and provide that personal touch that you would expect at a smaller school. So at this time, we're going to shift gears a little bit and reintroduce David. David has again been incredibly helpful. Carla shared some information, and I just want to personally thank him for all that he's done over the years. He is my model alum, and still takes my calls. So
Yep.
you do. And so David, maybe to start here, would you share a little information about your story, about A2I, and kind of take us from Wesleyan to what you're doing presently?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and thanks everybody for coming in. Thanks guys for having me. Yeah, I mean, first, just a little background on our company. So we're based in Chicago. We're a marketing services firm. Our clients, for the most part, are very large consumer packaged goods companies. So Unilever, Hershey, Smuckers, Pernod Ricard, and Kimberly-Clark are some of the ones that we're currently working with. And so these companies tend to be very good at things like brand marketing. They're very good at product development, working with retailers, things like that. Those are the types of things that are like built into their company DNA. What they tend to not have built in their DNA is the ability to leverage data about individual consumers, so like the people who are actually buying and using their products, and then figuring out how to adjust their marketing approaches to basically be more tailored based on the information that they have about consumers. They can be more impactful, give people what they want better, that sort of thing. So we specialize in that, basically. So, and that often ends up meaning coming up with launching and implement like ongoing implementation of what we call like high impact CRM programs for their brands. So whenever they're like collecting data from the people who buy their products, that sort of thing. And then our team manages kind of all facets of that. So that means there's upfront strategy work, figuring out what needs to be done. There's a lot of underlying data analytics to sort of like understand what we're working with. More kind of like fancier math, so predictive modeling. We have statisticians on staff. And then completely the other side of things. So we do creative design, copywriting, so the actual creative production. And then the final step, which is known as campaign execution, which means working in tools like Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Adobe, things of that nature. And just a little more background, just kind of on the company. So yeah, as Carla mentioned, so we started the company. It'll be 10 years in a couple of weeks. It'll be 10 years ago. So had 2 partners, and we had 5 initial employees when we started. And the crew of us, we were at Leo Burnett doing similar work with Kellogg's as our client. And I don't know, for a long story, but decided to kind of go off on our own and try and make a go of it. And it was a very rough beginning. We got sued by Leo Burnett. We lost $1 million of our investors' money in the first 6 months. It was a struggle, but we sorted it out and stopped the bleeding, figured out how to grow, kept on growing, and just have done a nice job of maintaining momentum. So as we said, we're about 45 people currently, and I'd like to believe we have a strong runway from here.
Okay, perfect. Well, congratulations on the success. It's been nice to follow that over the past number of years. So can you tell us a little bit about what made you decide to reach back to Wesleyan and look for talent there, and kind of how that happened?
Yeah. So I mean, it was a really natural decision for me. So like, first and foremost, I had a great experience at the school as well as with the Career Center, and I was there. I mean, I remember you guys. You just made it very like straightforward as a student too. I tried hard and got a good resume and good grades and whatnot, but I was kind of ignorant as an undergrad, and you guys made things like very, very easy to like kind of navigate. And then one specific thing that I'll always remember is like, I very much appreciated, I don't know how it works now, but back in the day, you guys did a great job of like for internships, collecting feedback from the interviewers. So I remember just assuming, well, I've worked really hard to have a good resume. Like I'm positive that I can just go in there and do a great job in the interview. And my first one was for a role. It was with the investments group at State Farm, and I was really excited about it. I thought like, okay, I got a good resume for this. The people who were interviewing for the role were alums who were football players. I was on the football team. I'm like, okay, I totally got this. And then I went and did the interview, felt fine about it, and then got that feedback form, and it was like, David showed very limited interest in the role and was like, was not very personal. I was just like, oh, whoops. So it was a good wake up call that I need to prepare in different situations. But anyway, that was like one little funny story that I remember from my interactions with the Career Center that I really appreciated. But even like, beyond that, really like the company that we started, kind of when that seed first got planted in my brain, it came from my first job, which came through the Career Center, which came through on-campus recruiting, and it was a small analytics firm that really was a good fit for me. And then Carla mentioned this a little bit, kind of opened my eyes to the possibility of like, okay, figuring out how to one day try and own a company like that. So the Career Center has played a role in my development throughout my career. And then getting more specifically into actually like recruiting at Wesleyan, we kind of stumbled our way into it. So after graduating, I would come back and talk to Dr. Lee's econometrics class, essentially trying to help the students understand how that material, which was like, I don't know, very, very math heavy, very dense, how that material could be used in the business world. Because when I was in the class, I didn't really imagine it being very practical for myself, and then ended up working with it quite a bit afterwards. So I had been doing that for a while, and then so about a year and a half after we started the company, I came back, did that talk, and ended up meeting with a student afterwards who had I thought had a lot of promise, and he seemed to have a lot of interest in the company. And we were contemplating making a hire at that time, and ended up bringing him aboard. And he is still with us. He's been with us for over 8 years. And we didn't run that through the Career Center, but that was a good reason to reconnect with you, Warren. And we've obviously like deepened our involvement from there. So yeah, I mean, so going back to it, it was like kind of reason number one was like my experience, and then we got reconnected through that first hire. And then beyond that, it's just been that we've been able to find high quality candidates who fit really well. And you guys at the Career Center have been extremely helpful in terms of just like helping us navigate it and kind of letting us do it our way. So I mean, we've on a few occasions done like quite structured, like on-campus recruiting, following the kind of like full process. And other times I'll just email you or Patrick and just say, hey, we have an opening, and you'll like refer candidates our way. And so like the way that it's come to life, it's been different every time. So there have also been instances we recently hired someone who we had talked to in 2021, and he had accepted the job before we were like ready to interview, but he reached out again almost a year later and said, hey, I'm really not enjoying my current role. Do you guys have anything? And we did. We hired him also, and then have also reached out to you guys when we've been willing to take people who have a little bit more experience. So you found I'm not sure how that works, but you found alums who are interested as well. So not even just current students. And yeah, we actually recently hired one more of those. So we are up to we'll have 10 people who are Wesleyan alums out of 45, which it seems a little bit ridiculous at times, but it's great.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's fun. So I mean, it's just a function of how well how effective you guys have been for us, and how good of fits a lot of the students have ended up being. So yeah, it's been great.
Kind of following up on that, can you speak a little bit about when you look at the candidates that you've hired for internship and full-time opportunities, and you've hired students with some different backgrounds, in terms of their academic preparation, what have they brought to A2I that have allowed them to kind of contribute to your growth and success?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we've hired a lot of different majors. So econ, we have an accounting major who works in that. When I mentioned that campaign execution group, he's found a great fit there. He actually does help with a little accounting stuff, but was an accounting major, but not necessarily using that full time. Business administration, Hispanic studies. And we did this past summer, we had our first, we had an intern with who was in your graphic design program. So have hired people kind of across the board. And like, I mean, I can't emphasize enough just how much like fit matters. So meaning just, being a good fit for the organization. And that doesn't mean at all like having a cookie cutter background. We've been able to hire a quite diverse set of grads over the years. But, from an approach standpoint, we try to really just present ourselves as we are. So we're not a huge company. We, for better or for worse, do not offer like a very clear sort of like structure or career path. The people who are hiring, their parents will have never heard of our company. They'll, but then flip side of that is, we've got a lot of expertise in a field that is, quite fast growing. We work with some of the biggest and best brands in the world, and we're set up in a way, and this was really why we started the company in the first place, but we're set up in a way where we want to give people as much opportunity, as they can, as much responsibility as they can handle as quickly as possible. And then we're set up to, give them that, support them in that, and then, reward them accordingly. So a lot of it for us is we just, try to present ourselves as we are, and then have had really good luck with the students just sort of like self-selecting. And the interview process helps from there. And I don't know this for sure, but I do feel like Wesleyan is a little bit like that too. Like when I think about the people who I went to school with and I'm still friends with, we talk about kind of like how we ended up there. A whole lot of the time, the answer is like, well, I went to several places and it just felt like the right place for me, sort of thing. Is like kind of, like what I would describe as like a pretty common response. And then, I think that is also like something that, our company is a little bit like that. Because I don't know, I've influenced it a fair amount in that regard. And so I think that to a decent degree, it's like figuring out the people, like putting ourselves out there, and then the people for whom it is a good fit, that kind of, it becomes kind of obvious. And like I said, when we interview it, we figure it out. And then the ones who, so there's that kind of fit thing. And then also the ones who it's not only a fit for, but then they prepare accordingly. So that, they come in and they've like read what they can about the company. They, are thoughtful about trying to connect dots and things like that. And then, I mean, maybe another way to even explain it would be like trying to think about, them embodying the qualities that we value. And when I think about the qualities we value, even trying to keep that to thinking of that as the things that matter to our clients, and keeping it real simple. Like when I think about, our clients, to digress for a minute, like when they interact with our team members, I really want them to think number one, the A2I team members, they know what they're talking about and they do what they say they're going to do. That being kind of the first thing. And then the second thing being, these guys go above and beyond. So they bring ideas, they bring solutions, they don't, that help get the job done. They don't just kind of do the bare minimum. And then the third one is just, I like working with them. They're interesting people. They're fun to be around. They're positive, curious, etc. And so, we try to make sure that that's how our clients feel, and that's what we want out of our colleagues also. And I think that the people that we've been able to find at Wesleyan, it seems to very much over-index in people like that. And so that has I think made it easy for for there to be such an impact on our organization that comes from recent grads of Illinois Wesleyan.
And I shared some things, in terms of ways that people could engage, whether it's alumni or friends of the university. What are some other, and you touched on this, but what are some other ways that you've connected with students over the years?
Yeah, I mean, as a company, we've kind of really run the gamut here. Like I said, when I first, even just as long as I've been out of school, I've been kind of coming back and doing things here and there. And then, when I first started, I would come back, or when I first got out of Wesleyan, I would come back to Bloomington even more often, talking to classes, and then would, did some career center panels and things like that as well. And then, as we've grown, now we're hiring people out of the school. And then, as we've grown, as I've got, my life has changed or whatever, I'm not in Bloomington as frequently, but I'm definitely happy to do stuff like this. And then as a company, we're probably more involved than I ever was individually, because we have plenty of alums who are excited to come back and do the job fairs and do, I mentioned we have not done a ton of the exact kind of run the script from a campus recruiting standpoint, but have had obviously plenty of instances of coming and interviewing, or having doing the other things you described, Warren, of getting resumes collected and going through them and running interview processes that way. And then also whether it's through the Career Center or just people reaching out on LinkedIn, I've had plenty of times where someone's just reached out and just asked for some career advice or just to talk, and I'm always happy to do that. I'm very thankful for the people who've done that for me over the years, and happy to do that for others. So so kind of a little bit all over the place.
And it works, works. So what for individuals on the call today who may be thinking about how they could engage, what advice would you have for them as somebody who has been active and has been involved? Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I would just recommend trying something. So just pick something. Don't feel like it's such a daunting process that you're not sure how to do it, or if you can fully commit, so then therefore you do nothing. I think that's what I would try to avoid. So it would just be, just dabble a little bit. I mean, that's what we've done. It's worked really well. And I know it's different for people in different situations. So, if you're a business owner or you're part of a smaller organization, then I think it's wildly easy. I would just reach out to you or Pat, and you guys will just guide them from there. You just said, okay, here's what I can do. Here's what I'm looking for. I mean this in a nice way, where you guys ask for enough stuff that people can figure out what to what fits for them. Or even if you just, I mean, I think it worked well for me. I could just say, hey, here's we either like need somebody right now, or like, hey, I think we're, I'm not quite sure what the next 6 months are going to bring, but I think there's a good chance we're going to need to hire a couple people. Do you have anybody we should have on our radar? And you guys have just like, been responsive to that, and like, and it's been great. So, I mean, I think that people should take you up on that more than, I don't know how much they do, but I would guess that people, if anybody's on the fence, I would say just do that, just try it. And you don't, you might get asked to, but you don't have to commit to like the on-campus recruiting or anything out of the gate. So I would just get started. And then if you are at a bigger organization, I don't have as much experience with that, but in cases where you have to like go through your HR departments and stuff, I'm not quite sure, the best bet. But I think that the good thing is that, if nothing else, I'm sure, Warren, that you guys would be very happy to help somebody kind of like make a case for why they ought to add Wesleyan into the on-campus recruiting. And then you do have enough ways, because I do think that some of those places are like, well, we only go to 7 schools, and we like, have a playbook that we run with those schools, and Wesleyan wouldn't like have enough quantity to make that worthwhile. But then I would imagine that people could come up with some kind of a like, different plan that would work. And I think that my guess would be that, Warren, you and Pat would like help people figure that out. So I would just say, just start to dabble. That's my general recommendation. And don't wait just because you're not sure exactly how to do it, but like, give it a try.
Good advice. Good advice. So,
and Dave, that's a great segue to our first question, which is really exactly on those lines, Warren, which is, if someone were interested, how do they open the door? How do they start that process, knowing that companies have sometimes very informal processes, sometimes very formal processes? How do you get started?
I think because maybe it's the fact that we're a smaller school. For me, the best way to start is a phone call, Zoom chat, something to just find where we can find out what an organization's needs are, because that's going to be paramount. And then based on the structure there, what would work? Do they have the autonomy to maybe take that first step in terms of recruiting, or do we need to make a case that they could share with human resources at their organization as to why we may have some quality candidates? With some larger organizations, we are seeing some that are saying, we've always recruited at these few schools because of numbers, and we realize that we're getting very similar candidates, and we're missing some talent by not looking at smaller schools. So sometimes that can be the leverage to get them to make a case, and we're happy to share some of the information that may not always be readily apparent to them as to the programs that we offer. As a smaller school, we have a good number of students who are in a variety of different majors under the business umbrella, and certainly many other majors as well. So just, letting them know what our student profile is, I think can give them some information that they can take back. So.
Yeah. And so, Warren, can you also maybe elaborate on, many of the alumni on the call may remember an old job board or a book where postings got posted, it was an old paper process. Can you talk a little bit about what's the modern day job board? How would someone share an internship or a full-time job experience?
Absolutely. We use a system called Handshake that is currently being used by many universities of all sizes across the country. And this is where we post internships and jobs. Companies can also post these directly, so we can set up an account where they could share opportunities as they become available. And we have organizations that prefer to do that. They have the ability then to go out and just post those as they become available. We also have smaller organizations that may not have the bandwidth or may prefer to just send us the announcement directly. We can still have that account set up and post that job for them. But yes, gone are the days of the binders and the job postings, and we're certainly working now with a system that allows our students to not only see what's coming through our office, but see jobs that are posted through other universities as well.
Great. So David mentioned LinkedIn and some of the ways that Titans are connecting with Titans on LinkedIn. You've talked about Handshake. Warren, and David too, both of you, what's the best way to leverage technology to facilitate this relationship building?
David, you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I use LinkedIn a lot, in large part just because I do business development for work, and it's like that's kind of where everybody is. In the days before that, it was like, oh, you wanted to reach out to somebody who worked at a particular company because you thought your, business might be a good fit for them. Like, good luck. You're going to have to, So it can be a little bit hit or miss. And right now, I can also it can be a little spammy too. Like, I get reached out to a lot by I didn't know, you'd be amazed at how many companies are out there who want to you to outsource your sales process to them. There's I get 3 a day, and they're all different companies and whatnot. But so I think the key is just to be like you would guess, even if you're leveraging technology to do it, but just be intentional about it and be thoughtful out of the gate. So if someone comes and just says hey, I'm, want to talk, I'll be like, I don't know who you are or what, but if they'll come and just, explain, we've had people reach out and say, I went to Wesleyan, I've heard of your company, I am interested in, I've been kind of in this field a little bit. I'm thinking about either career change or trying to take stuff to the next level. Seems like this is something you've experienced. What do you talk? Then I'm of course I'm going to say yes to that, as opposed to someone who comes with kind of no explanation or whatnot. So I think that for people in the kind of job seeking world, just, put yourself in the perspective of the person who's going to be receiving the message and just be thoughtful about it. And I think as long as you do that, then that's the great thing about technology is it's very easy to find people now. And then, and as long as you do a decent job with it, I think it's a pretty well connected and generous alumni group. So I think that people will have have no shortage of luck. And when I have those conversations with people, I do end it with if I like them afterwards, I will kind of end it with after, check through, you can look through my LinkedIn contacts, or if there's anybody at a company that you want to be introduced to that I know, I can't promise that I'm best friends with them or anything, but I'm happy to do that. And so I think, combo of getting the basic understanding that technology is no problem, I don't think, but getting comfortable, doing a good job with outreach for people, and being thoughtful. If you're thoughtful, there's just so much that you can leverage out of that sort of thing.
And I think we share, that's good to hear, because we share that with students as well, to utilize LinkedIn. It's an incredible tool and Handshake, but to do it intelligently and to be thoughtful, and when you reach out, personalize a message. And our experience has been that when that happens, our alumni are usually very willing to respond and engage with students, and we certainly appreciate that support.
Mm-hmm.
David, you have a fan club in the Q&A.
Good.
Folks,
okay.
fraternity brothers and teammates that are wishing you
Okay.
well and are excited to connect. So
right.
maybe the most important question from the fan club is, do you still have the best vertical jump and 40-yard dash?
Good question. That is, I strongly doubt it. So I think that's an incredibly good question. I really appreciate it.
And so maybe the bridge between those intangible skills and the more genuine question from Randy is what are those intangible characteristics that of Illinois Wesleyan students? So that 20% of your workforce that you would say differentiates Illinois Wesleyan students, not to say that the rest of your employees don't have that, but are there some shared things that you think are intangibles for Illinois Wesleyan?
I mean, I think the first one was going back to what I was saying before, the people who are a fit here. It's common that people who are I don't know, they're sort of seeking a fit, and they're And I think that also like the work that we do is, like I said, it's not super structured. We're kind of figuring it out as we go, but what it takes is like a level of curiosity and a level of like humility from the standpoint of, you're going to be wrong more often than you're right at first, that kind of thing. And then, but being comfortable in that kind of like unstructured environment, which I think of as like, liberal arts training sort of like helps you with that. You like see more situations, you use your brain in different ways, you like, become adept at like a lot of different things without necessarily being like super narrow, like honed in on one. And but you're also able to like go deep in something. So it's not just like shallow surface level stuff, but you can go deep, you can come out of it, you can go deep someplace else, that sort of thing. And one thing I'm not sure is like we've had great luck with Wesleyan students in that regard. I think some of that is a liberal arts thing. Some of that is probably Wesleyan specific, but also like candidly, because you guys are doing such a good job feeding us people, we have not like tried to go, like replicate this at 8 other schools. Maybe someday we'll get big enough that we need to do that. But for the time being, like this is working. And so we're sticking with it. So I do think that it's just, I don't know, it's a little bit of the Midwesternness, it's a little bit of the liberal artsness, it's a little bit of something that is just sort of in that little like magic of Wesleyan, and also a little of it is just that like it would make sense that would fit well with the company that I started, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I often think of that as people who are wired to be generalists, that they can do anything. They're multifaceted, yep, but they're smart enough to be specialists when you need them to be.
Yeah, they're not just good at Googling or something, yeah, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. You mentioned that you've also hired alumni. And so the Titan network doesn't just work for our current students, but for our alumni as well. How did those connections get made? Because there may be some folks on the call who are thinking about changing direction.
Sure.
How does that work?
Yeah. I mean, I think a combo of number one, I think that some people are they're still in touch with the Career Center. I'm not sure if like alumni check handshake or anything, like how that exactly is working. And Warren might be able to say how, when we've said, people with experience are fine. And for the most part, it's been people with like a couple of years. So it's not like people who were in school when I was or something like that. But the other piece just being that, like, again, I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to, basically, or something like that. So that would be kind of where, like, very findable on LinkedIn or something like that. So that would be kind of where sometimes people will just reach out, or, I'm still close with plenty of people that I went to school with, and then they have their networks and that sort of thing. But Warren, I don't know if you have a take on just kind of like how it works with you guys and alums.
We've shared our graduates maintain their handshake account. So because we've used it for a number of years, those alums would still have their accounts, and any alum can reach back and we'll be happy to set up an account for them. So there's that tool. And then I've also shared through LinkedIn, when there's opportunities that come through, so that, I can pass that along to my network in the hope that maybe we could help fill a position for one of our graduates. So that's a couple of avenues.
Yeah, and otherwise, I mean, alums, as I've done more of this stuff too, then like, so you mentioned like Mark Toledo did one of these a while ago. He's lives in the same town as me, and our kids play in a football team together and stuff. So, but he's a little older, has a totally different network and stuff like that. So there's been a lot. I think that has it's been good from a just momentum building standpoint, as and going back to the very original thing of like, well, just dabble in this stuff, because you'll be surprised at the other kind of like, benefits that you weren't expecting that start to materialize when you get a little more involved.
Great. But for both of you, we have some folks on the webinar today who aren't the hiring authority, right? They're not the person who's posting a job and making a hiring decision, but obviously they want to be surrounded by talent, and Illinois Wesleyan brings that talent. What should someone in that role do? How can they help facilitate this process of connecting Titans to great employers?
I mean, my main thought would be that, like, if they could probably still, like, I don't think their employers would get mad if they, like, if they volunteer to do something with the school. And then generally speaking, like most any place I've ever worked, you have an ability to like refer people. So if and if as a person, if you're not the like hiring decision maker or something, but you get some like good resumes, then like you can pass them along. And a lot of places you can get like a couple $1,000s for doing that and stuff. So like if they end up getting hired and things, so it's mutually beneficial, I think. But yeah, so I mean that would be my first thought of like, well, you can't go like organize a on-campus recruiting thing and get not have to take a vacation day or something like that. But yeah, I think that it's probably more doable than it might feel like at first glance.
I think there's organizations where if they have target schools, they sometimes will have ambassadors, or they'll have their own terms that are coming from other institutions and part of their workforce. So possibly even serving in that role where they could reach out and share information. And some of those have the potential then to grow into more formal, opportunities moving forward.
Warren, one of the things that I know you do really well is help connect people, whether they're the hiring authority or not. So if you're on this webinar and you're thinking, well, I don't know that I get to make these decisions, that doesn't matter to us. If you can help bring a resume to someone who can, or help advocate for someone who can, Warren will always find you. And will help you be our inside champion, right? Sometimes because of our size, we're going through the back door with businesses and employers to bring great talent to great people. And we need your help to make those connections too. Is that fair, Warren?
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Well, very good. Well, perhaps my last question that I think appropriate to wrap today is what has been, and maybe David, this is really more directed to you, what's your favorite career connection back to Illinois Wesleyan? Do you have a story or an event or a process that really you feel is the most rewarding for you?
Sure. I don't know if I have that, but I will just say that it's been like the school has been, and the Career Center in particular, been very helpful for me, both like in the obvious ways of like when I was an undergrad looking for a job, and then beyond that as well, whether it's like feeding us like kind of candidates now, or just like staying connected over the years. I was during the Great Recession, I found myself unemployed for a few months. I was a ways out of school at that point, but like lost my job and like still like reached out and got info there. So it's been nice. And also, like, as you mentioned, Warren's been there forever. So it's also helps to know that there's like, I know the person, and now I know Patrick well too. But yeah, just knowing that it's kind of always been there. Right. And, that the sort of like level of dependability, that's not one story, but that would be sort of like, it's been a mainstay. And then also last thing I'll say is like, quite frankly, like very helpful, even just like with growing the business over the years and more. I went to Northwestern for business school, but I would say that my like friends and counterparts from Wesleyan have been at least as helpful as the people from there in terms of like ongoing development and stuff. So that's my answer.
Yeah, absolutely. David, it's funny that you say that. I've talked to several alumni, and when they think about who is defining success, whatever industry they're in, whether it's nursing, whether it's business, when they stop and look at who are the people that are really defining success, that are change makers, that are leading in industries, it's Illinois Wesleyan peers that are doing that in their world. And so we appreciate that you're one of those trailblazers. As an entrepreneur, as someone who is saying, hey, I'm gonna make a difference in these ways. We thank you for your connection to Illinois Wesleyan and back as an alum, and the many ways that you've helped us get that #1 rating for jobs by employing our students. We really truly hope that everyone on the call today will join us in that effort and staying strong and knowing that we are providing incredible talent to the business world and to our community. We know our students go out and change the world. And so we appreciate everyone's connection to that. So thank you, Warren and David. Again, a copy of this webinar will be available through the Office of Alumni Engagement. Thank you, Kaylee, and your team for your work in putting these things together. They're informative, they're fun, they're certainly a joy to bring us all together. So thank you all for coming today, and have a great rest of your day.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Be well, everybody. Take care.